This is John from Probo Medical, and today we're going to show you how to assemble your Consona N9. So when you receive it, it's not going to have any of the attachments on the machine. What you're going to need to install the parts is a Phillips screwdriver and a 5/32 Allen wrench or screwdriver. One of the first things you're going to do is remove the coverings from your touch screen and from your main monitor. Okay, the gel warmer comes in a small cardboard box. Then open that box and remove the coverings from the gel warmer. In the package you receive, you're going to see a box that looks about like this. Inside of this box is a lot of the parts you're going to need to assemble the machine. You have the vaginal probe holder. This is the holder for the gel warmer. You're going to have several little packages that look like this, and these are the inserts that go inside of the transducer holders. You're going to have the power cord for the machine, and there should be 3 little baggies with screws in them. To install the vaginal probe holder and the gel warmer holder, you're going to want the 3 Allen screws. 3 for this, 3 for this, and then I've got my Allen wrenches here. And where you're going to install them. If you look around the machine, come under, and right up under here, you're going to see 3 little holes on each side. The right side of the machine here is where you're going to put the gel warmer. So what you're going to want to do is start out with the gel warmer, and you can see this face is what mounts to the machine. This is the underside. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll get 1 screw started here, hold this right up underneath, try to match that up to the screw hole, and get the first one started. Once that first one is started, then you can grab another screw, get that one going, then the last one, and get that spun up in there. Get them snug. And then I use this to get the final turn on those. Make sure that it's snug but not overly tight. You don't need to force it. And that's got the gel warmer holder installed. Then from there, you can take your gel warmer and it slots right down in there, and then the power port for it is right up there. Now your gel warmer is installed. To install the vaginal probe holder, once again, this flat side is the side that goes to the machine. Start your screw. You'll come right up underneath. Match that screw into the correct hole. Get that started. There we go. And just like on the other side, I get them snugged up with this, and then give them the final tightening with an actual wrench. And that's got the vaginal probe holder installed. Okay, when you're seating these, you're going to drop that in, and it hits a point where it's in, but it's not all the way locked in. And this is where I see a lot of problems. I go to a lot of facilities, and these aren't locked all the way into position. Okay, you're going to see that there's a gap, and we don't want that gap. And so the hard part is getting this pushed all the way into position. And you're going to find that once you get it, there's a bit of a snap when they finally settle into their final place. There we go. That's got it. And you'll see that there's no more gap on the inside there, that it's all the way seated down. The large and the mediums aren't too hard to do, but the smallest ones can be a little bit of a struggle. So take your time, push, wiggle it around until you finally get those into position. Okay, when installing the power cord, the important thing to remember is that there's a little cage right here. Make sure you go under the cage, push that in, and then snap that down around the power cord. That will keep it from the power cord pulling out on you as you move the machine. To install this basket, you're going to need the baggie with one screw in it and your Phillips screwdriver. So we're going to take this, and it's going to go right over that, just like that. On the underside, I'm going to come down, and you're going to see right here is the hole that we're going to put our screw in to hold that in place so that it doesn't come out. Okay, next we're going to install the little tray that holds your printer and the two baskets that go on the side. So for this step, you're going to need the little baggie that contains two screws and your Phillips screwdriver. Where they're going to go is right down here on this flat spot. So there's two little rubber inserts, one right there and one right there. First thing you're going to need to do is pop those out. It takes a small screwdriver or something that you can kind of dig in. Sometimes you can get it with a fingernail, but once you get, there's one out and the second one, once you get those out, you'll be able to install those little screws that hold that tray table down. Okay, when we're installing this little tray table, we can set the tray right down, and we have our two little holes, so we want to set it down so it matches up with the location of those two holes. And then we have our two little screws. And then just snug these up. You don't want them overly tight, just snug, because it will strip out that plastic if you put them in too tightly. Okay, that's got that done. And now on these trays, you have two little slots here that match up with the buttons that stick off the sides of that. And you just put that on. Come over to the other side, put that on, and now that is installed. When you open the box that contains the black and white printer, you're going to have a bunch of cables and some booklets, some CDs. You don't need most of that. What you're going to need is the USB cable, one end that plugs into a printer that looks like that, and then the other end is just a standard USB. You're going to have a power cable. There are two different types of power cables that may come with your system. This one plugs into the wall. The other type would plug into the power supply on your ultrasound machine. So this is a separate one that has to plug into the wall separate from the machine. Then you're going to have your printer. Make sure you take this little blue piece of tape off. Now, if you have one of the power plugs that plugs into the ultrasound machine, it's going to plug in on the power supply right here. The USB is going to plug into one of these USB ports right here. So this is what it looks like once your printer is installed. You can see I have the USB cable and the power cable plugged into the back of the printer. The USB cable plugs in right there. And right now I'm stowing the power cable in that bucket. I do have the printer aimed to the left of the machine. This will make it easy to access these prints as you do the exam. If you print out multiples during the exam, they're just going to go right down into this bucket and not fall on the floor. The final part of the setup is going to be plugging in your video for your TV, usually HDMI. If you're using HDMI, it plugs in right there. If you're using VGA, it plugs in right there. Last, S-Video is right here. For networking, if you are plugging into a hardwired network, your network port is right there. When installing your transducer, there's a cover here that's held on by magnets. You can just take that off, take your transducer, slot it in, turn that, and you can put that in the little minder there. And then this just pops right back on. Now, some things to keep in mind about Mindray transducers. When they ship, they always ship with a little piece of plastic or rubber tape covering the transducer face. Make sure you take that off before you start scanning. That's important. If there's any little residue behind, I just use the tape to help clean up that little bit of tape residue there. But you don't want to scan with that black tape covering the transducer. Then the other thing is the new probes ship with this plastic wrap on the cable. There's going to be a way, just kind of work your way around until you find a spot where it tears easily, and then strip that plastic off. It should come off fairly easily, but you don't want to leave that plastic on the transducer cable because you can't clean out underneath of it. Okay, so that's got your machine set up. Now this particular facility opted not to use that basket that goes on the back. So I went ahead and put the screw in that holds the basket in place so that the screw does not get lost if in case they ever want to use the basket. But they don't want it because it does get in the way a little bit of the vaginal probe when you put that in its cradle there. So when you first turn on your machine, you're going to see a screen that looks like this. You're going to see admin right here. It's going to ask for a password. There is no password. Okay, so on your keyboard, you have two buttons on either side of the trackball here. Either of these works as a mouse click or a set button. So you want to be right on the login and then click on that set button, and that's going to get you started.